The Dough fruit in Blox Fruits is one of the most significant and impactful fruits to ever exist in the game. It has gone through highs, lows, multiple changes, meta dominance, and even an awakening. Yet today, it's not even close to being meta. Today, we're going to look at the complete history of Dough in Blox Fruits. We'll talk about how it started, what its strengths and weaknesses were, how players discovered its combo potential, how it climbed into the meta, the insane era after its awakening, the gradual fall-off, and what its place in the game is right now. On December 25, 2019, Dough was added as a mythical special natural type Blox fruit, aka a special paramecia. Now this was a pretty big deal because it was one of the earliest mythical fruits to ever be introduced into Blox Fruits. Gravity technically came before it as the very first mythical, but it was really garbage, so no one really cared about it. It's also the first and only fruit in the history of Blox Fruits to not fit into any of the three categories. Being a special natural type Blox fruit, Dough would act like a natural fruit when observation is disabled and act like an elemental fruit when observation is activated. On release, Dough had a completely different feel compared to the rest of the fruits. Most fruits in Blox Fruits at the time were pretty straightforward. They did damage, maybe they stun, and you chained that with a fighting style or a sword. Combos were possible, but the system wasn't nearly as deep as it would later become. Dough came in and completely shook that up. The thing about Dough at release is that it had really high knockback. For a lot of players, this felt like a bad thing. It meant that you couldn't just spam moves, but instead, you needed to set up your combos carefully, usually relying on stuns from other abilities to make the most of its damage. If you didn't know what you were doing, Dough could actually feel underwhelming or even weak. That's why in its earliest days, a lot of people underestimated the fruit. They thought of it as a weird gimmick fruit that only noobs would waste time on. It showed good results for the experienced players, but the mid-ladder players believed it was suboptimal compared to the fruits they were more comfortable with. Alongside Dough, a brand new fighting style was added to the game in the same update, introducing Superhuman. Requiring mastery on every existing fighting style to obtain it, Superhuman was designed to be top tier in every aspect. It offered amazing damage, amazing stuns, fast moves, which were all groundbreaking back then. This fighting style completely revolutionized the meta and was without doubt the best fighting style by far during that era. As players began experimenting more, something became clear. Dough wasn't weak, it was just misunderstood. Once people realized how to properly use its moves, especially how to chain combos that got more and more complex, it started gaining serious attention. Players found that with enough timing and practice, Dough could lock opponents down and deal massive burst damage before they can even have a chance to react. At that time, the competitive scene was barely existent, dominated mainly by very few crews. Speaking of the competitive community, I saw a lot of comments on my last video saying that Portal was no longer the best fruit but instead fruits like Pain or Dragon. I want to clarify here that it's my fault for not specifying enough. Now it's true that stuff like Ice or Pain dominate normal servers, but one thing to note is that public servers often have a completely different PvP environment and meta compared to the top ladder competitive communities. For example, in lower ladder you would see fruits like Dragon or Yeti wreaking havoc and gaining millions of bounty, but in competitive play, it's almost always Portal, Lightning, Portal, more Portal. I know, right? Poor Dough. With that clarified, let's get back to the video. During the span of 4 months, Dough would gradually see a steady rise in usage rates as more and more people discovered its potential, and on April 17, 2020, it would see its first balance change. In Update 10, Dough was nerfed overall. Now it wasn't specified what aspects were nerfed specifically, but it's safe to assume that the fruit is generally weaker in terms of a lot of things after the nerf. One thing that's interesting is that this nerf was one update after its release, which is basically the same as an emergency nerf considering how often Blox Fruits usually updates. I couldn't really find a lot of information on this particular era, but it's evident that the balance change took a toll on Dough's usage rate, and the developers have definitely noticed that. On July 10, 2020, Update 11 will be released. This update added a brand new mechanic known as Awakenings, which included Ice, Flame, and Quake at the very start. These Awakenings massively boosted said fruits' usage rates, and it stands to reason that they were definitely part of the meta at that time. Alongside the addition of Awakenings were plenty of balance changes, which of course included Dough. Although small, the fruit was buffed. The delay of its V move was decreased, and the X and C moves got a slight hitbox increase. After the buff went live, though wouldn't see any balance changes for the next 2 years. During this time, the game would see the addition of new game-breakingly meta fruits, like Dragon and Venom, new awakenings, new fighting styles, new swords, new guns, and even a whole new sea. Because of all these new power-craft fruits and weapons, those usage rate would decline during the entirety of 2021. You would still be seeing 1 or 2 Dough users every other server, but it was nowhere near its prime, being overshadowed by the new meta fruits, Venom, Dragon, and Door. It wasn't until update 17.3 that Dough would finally get to be in the spotlight again. On September 10, 2022, update 17 part 3 was released. This update revolutionized Blox Fruits. It was almost like a revamp to the entire game. New animations, new mechanics, new item times, and most importantly, new meta. It was in update 17.3 that God Human, Soul Guitar, and Cursed Dual Katana were added. 3 items that would be game-breakingly overpowered back then. On top of those, a new fruit was added, being Leopard. That's not even all. Race Awakenings were added soon after, making the power creep even scarier. Alongside all those additions, Dough would receive its very own awakening, giving it a new look and way stronger abilities. As soon as the update was released, people quickly started experimenting with these new stuff. It was especially when content creators began using Dough that the fruit really started gaining traction, and one content creator stood above the others, Fur999. Fur was a very influential YouTuber to PvP back then and remains to be the most recognizable PvP YouTuber to this day. It goes without saying that any video made by her would have a heavy influence on the meta. She made a video using Awakened Dough and called it the new best fruit, which has gotten 1.7 million views and became her 3rd most viewed video ever. From there on, Fur999 has uploaded even more videos using Dough, and it's no surprise that Dough has become her favorite fruit. Even by the time I fought her, she was still using Dough. Since Fur is such an influential YouTuber, a lot of people began using and glazing Dough just because of her. At that time, it was mostly seen with God Human, Soul Guitar, CDK, and Shark, providing amazing offensive and defensive potential at the same time. Now remember that this is pre-nerf Shark, the race that was literally unkillable and extremely easy to use. This has led to the rise of tons of mid-ladder menaces that will terrorize public servers since most people didn't know how to counter this new meta build. For the remainder of 2022, Dough would dominate the PvP scene, achieving a usage rate of almost 1/4 of the entire low-ladder player base. In mid-ladder, it would see a scary usage rate of around 50 to 60%, which is about 6 or 7 Dough users in every server. Of course, it's impossible to know the exact rates of anything in the game, but it's safe to deduce if you have the least bit of experience. It seemed like Dough was the golden fruit, destined to be the best with all of its insanely overpowered abilities. Or is it? Before we continue, let me tell you about our amazing Discord community. You can chat with our members, get free raid carries, join daily giveaways, and even partake in a permanent fruit giveaway that was sponsored by a Blox Fruits staff recently. It's gonna end on Christmas, so be sure not to miss out. So what are you waiting for? Join the link in the description. Let's get back to the video. Dough had a lot of flaws to begin with. First of all, its incompatibility with air PvP drastically lowers its potential in competitive play where air PvP is the meta, limiting it to only low to mid ladder usages. Second of all, its combos get really repetitive and easy to predict. I mean, who wouldn't follow up Dough V with Dough C? It just gets too obvious at times. Third of all, a crucial combo starter and extender, Dough X, is easily instinct-trickable, both the air and ground versions. And last of all, it heavily relies on combo starters. Dough C is literally unusable unless you're super close to the opponent. Dough V has a billion years of startup that makes it inconsistent in higher ladder. And Dough Z is fine, but it's mostly just a finisher or a move to spam when you have nothing to do. And finally, Dough F is just useless in PvP. And what does all that mean? Dough is essentially nothing but a spam fruit on its own, and the only reason why it's so good is because of support items like Soul Guitar. All those flaws were all present but not widely known yet, and once people do learn how to counter it, it's just a matter of time before Dough has its very own downfall. Dough received some changes here and there, but nothing major. On October 21, 2023, the long-anticipated Update 20 would finally release after 8 months of inactivity from the developers. It introduced a complete rework to the sea events and added a new island, a new sword, a new fighting style, 2 new fruits, and plenty of other content. The new sword in question was the Sharkanker, and the fighting style was none other than Sanguinard. It also introduced reworks to almost every single sword in the game. This is the time when swordmain would truly become meta, and it wasn't even close. Enchantments didn't help with the power creep either. Blessings would buff swords so much that would feel like an entirely different weapons. It was in this environment that Dou would begin to feel its flaws catching up to it. Portal was rapidly rising in popularity at that time. It was already the undisputed meta even before Update 20, and now the gap is just getting bigger and bigger. Especially now that TTK got revamped, the new meta build that featured Sanguinard, Portal, Soul Guitar, and TTK is now dominating both casual and competitive scenes. From there on, those usage rates just went downhill with each passing month and received no balance changes whatsoever. New metas came and went, like the Diamond meta, the Dragonheart meta, yet Dou could only sit in the corner and watch as all those items got their time to shine. Now don't get me wrong, Dou is still a good fruit, it's just that there's just way better options now. With the rise of popularity of competitive Blox Fruits, Dou just can't find its place in the current PvP environment. In fact, if we look back into the past, Dou never was as OP as everyone thought it was. It was mostly because of how the fruit's nature was designed for combos, montages, and content creation combined with Fer999 making it her main fruit, which led to many people seeing only the highlight moments and started glazing Dou because of that. Now, even despite all of that, Dou is still a solid A-tier fruit. It's just that things like Portal TTK meta or Lightning with the Infinite F glitch are in the S+ tier, overshadowing Dou by miles. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe as it really means a lot to me. You can also comment down your thoughts on Dou, whether positive or negative, and if you want to watch more videos like this, here's one about the history of Portal instead. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.